The Jerd Nation Podcast.
We're back. It's been a while and we've missed you, so we're going to get right into it. If that's okay. Yeah. So the first topic tonight, Big J, is, guys, what movies make you cry even now as an adult? So Big J, I'm going to start with you, bro.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a football movie. It's the real Friday Night Lights. As they get so close to the goal line, they're a half a yard away from making the score to beat Dallas Carter in the 1988 state championship. The Odessa Permian Panthers fall so short. It makes me cry every time because I think maybe this is one time they'll beat the Thugs from Dallas Carter, but no, the Dallas Carter Thugs win by 6 inches.
Yeah,
sometimes 6 inches makes a big difference, man.
Mark's never won by 6 inches.
No.
That's a good movie, though. Friday Night Lights is a fantastic movie.
It's one of my top five favorites.
Yes, it's one of my favorite sports movies. Also, I have the book. I haven't read it all yet, but I plan on to. Lucas, my man, what is your movie that makes you cry?
I mean, mine's based a little bit on real life. It's Fast and Furious 7. The last scene with the whole Paul Walker and Vin Diesel driving off separate ways. Yeah, it gets me every time because of, Paul Walker's death and just, this series has not been the same without him.
That damn Wiz Khalifa song.
Yep. I still cannot listen to that song.
That is a sad scene, especially at the end. I think is that the movie when they're on the beach?
Yeah.
And then I think it's Paul's brother, isn't it? That is filling in for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of heart wrenching too, just to know that your brother stepped in, and that's a good pick there.
As soon as he says, "You thought you could leave without saying goodbye," all the grown men in the theaters cried.
Yep, and go be a father.
I saw that on a date with a girl, and she was like, "Why are you crying?" I was like, "Why are we never going on a date again?" There's your answer.
Yeah, I was in the theater with my dad and my 2 cousins, and we are all 4 just bawling like little bitches. It's how it be.
Cody, my man, what's your movie, bro?
I'm going to go with one I'm surprised someone didn't say before me. The greatest animated film of all time, Iron Giant. Just You Stay, I Go. I watched it when they added it to HBO Max like a few months ago, and I still teared up. I was like, I know what's coming. Why am I still crying? Like, he's okay. He's alive. Why am I sad? But that's just such a beautiful movie, man. It gets me every time.
The Iron Giant. That's a good animated flick, dude. Sammy B, I want to know what movie really makes you just makes the waterworks.
I'm real weird when it comes to movies that hit me in the feels. And I'm kind of stuck between two, like both movies would be interchangeable. The movie, as funny as it is, the movie Click always gets me. Felt like it was one of Adam Sandler's most underrated movies and underrated performances. At the scene where his daughter's getting married and he has the heart attack and stuff, just every single time just gets me. Every single time. You got the Cranberries playing in the background. I even remember that. Like it's just every time I see that movie and that scene, it just hits me right in the feels every time. So
yeah, you can't listen to Linger now without going back to that movie.
Yeah, you can't listen to Linger without that, man. It just that song has never been the same since that movie for me. And then the other one, the honorable mention, maybe a movie some of you have seen, maybe you haven't, is Secondhand Lines.
Ooh, yes.
The end of that movie where you find out that all the stories that the old men were telling were real, and the little boy's like, oh, these men really lived, and then the guy's like, yeah, they really lived. And it's like, just even talking about it just punches you right in the feels, man. Such a good movie.
Yeah, that's a movie I think everybody should see. It's definitely one of my favorites.
It's if you haven't seen it, watch it. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's a great movie. Great movie.
I mean, when you mix Robert Duvall and Michael Caine and you put those kind of characters and stories behind them, oh my goodness, dude. What a fantastic movie that is. Okay, my movie that makes me cry. You know what? I've had a few movies that I would have to hold back the tears on, but this movie is good Lord, it punches me in the gut every time. And I don't know if you guys have seen it. The movie that gets me is The Shack. And if I read the book, but it really didn't hit home until I watched it in theater. And of course, now I have, when I got married, I inherited a daughter, Natalie, and had my daughter, Kaylin. And that movie is about a guy who, a serial killer, kidnapped and abducted his daughter. They're looking for her. They find her dead in the cabin. He has a hard time. I think a year after that, he's not very, he's just depressed. His family is kind of getting tired of how he is. And then all of a sudden, it's like he gets this letter from God, and God calls him back to the shack, and then he has these conversations with God and everything, and it's a good movie on forgiveness, man, and grace, and then just when he actually gets to bury his daughter, man, it just, good God, dude, the dad just loses everything. He just loses it all. And that to me gets to me every time. Now, The Passion of the Christ got to me before. There's just a certain part of that movie, a very certain part of that movie. But that one, I've never had to fight so hard on a movie to hold back the tears, because I knew Christine was, next to me in the theater. She was sobbing like it was nobody's business. But I had to hold. I held it so. I spent so much energy and strength holding it back. My throat started, how your throat will tighten up, and I just it's nuts, man. That movie's something else. If you haven't checked it out already, The Shack is a very, very good movie.
Anybody have any like weird movies that make you cry, like like movies that maybe shouldn't have made you cry but did?
High School Musical 3.
We got our first Mark answer. No.
Yeah. All right. You got to explain it a little.
So I have seen that movie 50, 100 times. And every time they get to the graduation scene, the very end of the movie, it gets me, and I don't understand why. Like, it still gets me.
Whenever I was a kid, at least we always had like one of those TVs, and you could put a VHS tape in it for trips. Yeah. And my dad had Transformers the movie on it. And as a kid, I loved Transformers, and I would always cry when Optimus Prime died. Like the first time that I saw, because he dies like 15 minutes into the movie. And so like I look at my dad and I'm like crying in the car, and he's like, no, it's okay. He comes back. And so he like, bless my dad's heart, he went and recorded the Return of Optimus Prime episode. And he was like, see, he's alive. He came back in the show, like just to make me quit crying, because I was so upset that Optimus Prime died, just for a cheap plug for new toys.
He was like, have you ever seen the movie Up? And I'm like, no, I've never seen the movie Up. She's like, you need to watch this really good movie. And then like within the first 10 minutes, I'm like tearing up. I'm like, what the crap is this? It's like the saddest freaking Disney movie ever. That little old man and his little woman, man, that was just the saddest thing ever. Caught me off guard so bad.
Wall-E did that with me too. I was like, this is a movie about a robot. Like, why am I sad?
I'll tell you what, the thing about Wall-E was they caught Wall-E and Eva's relationship in such a good way that it hits you in the guts, man. Like I get you, man. Like for a movie that has like little to no talking in it from the main characters at all, like
just strange beeping noises.
It's funny like how well they caught the emotion of that movie. Oh yeah, that's a good answer. That's a really good answer.
Oh, another good one was Saving Private Ryan.
Of course. Golly.
I bawl even now even watching that movie. I watched it a couple nights ago.
Tell you what got me about Saving Private Ryan was the scene where Matt Damon is telling the story about his brothers to Tom Hanks, and like then he realizes that's the last time that all of his brothers were together. That punches you in the gut. But what makes it even better was that whole part of the script was completely ad-libbed. It wasn't anything that was in the script. It wasn't planned. It was just a story he made up and told on the spot, and it made it into the movie. So for me, that makes it that scene that much more powerful.
Dang, I never knew that.
So I saw Endgame with Morgan in theaters, and Endgame was like the ultimate fan service thing, but still like emotional. And like I went from losing my mind, like that's what kind of sucks, is I don't think I'll ever feel the way in a theater that I did when I saw Cap finally get to use Thor's hammer, because I knew it was coming at some point. And then Tony dies, and I'm kind of sad. And then they end the movie with Cap finally getting to dance with Peggy, and that's what made me sad, because I was with my girlfriend, and I was like Cap finally got his dance. I was like, I'm crying, join me. It gets me, man. Like I think the dance got to me more than Tony's death, actually.
See, for me, it was Black Widow's death, and then the funeral. Not like the whole snap, but the funeral of Tony got me.
Yeah, the proof that Tony Stark still has a heart, the arc reactor.
Yeah. The whole I love you 3000 as the hologram.
And then the kid from Iron Man 3 was in the funeral too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the music that they wrote for that, it gets you. And I'm glad you mentioned Endgame, Lucas, because that's one of the, every time I watch it, it really hits you in the feels, just because I think the Iron Man Tony Stark character with Robert Downey Jr., no other character in that franchise connected with more people than him. I think more people got sucked into him more than any other character. And when that happened, everybody felt it. Now it would have been the kind of same with Cap or Thor if it was written like that. But the way Robert Downey Jr. Just portrayed Tony and since 2008, since the first film, and he really sucked us in, and we just take it's real.
I have one more. I have to say. I absolutely have to say it. Logan made me cry my eyes out in that theater, because there's no post-credit scene. He just dies, and then you have Laura tilt his cross over to make an X, and then says "Daddy." So it's just like constantly punching you in the guts. And then they end it with "The Man Comes Around" with Johnny Cash. Like I sat in that theater after Logan ended and was just like I literally just soaked it in. I was like, this just really broke my heart. Like, you knew he was going to die, but I don't know. Like, it kind of felt like part of my childhood had died, because I saw X-Men 1 in theaters as a kid with my parents.
I'm gonna end with this one, just because this movie made me feel like my childhood died. I never cried, but it just really makes you sad. It's the end of The Sandlot, man, because I got so involved with them in the middle in the whole movie, and then I know at the end you got Smalls and Benny the Jet. Kind of, he's the announcer, he's the ball player, but man, it's like you miss everybody else so much. You feel like you lost part of your family.
Oh, dude, in The Sandlot, when he says, what's the line? One day you go out to play with your friends, and it's the last time you ever play with your friends, and you don't even know it.
Yes.
Feels, brother, feels.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, watching this edition of the Jerd Nation podcast. Don't forget to follow on Facebook and like and share, and on YouTube, hit the notification button, subscribe. Yes, great. We'll see you next time. Later.
The Jerd Nation podcast.